Welcome to the Happy Disruptors podcast. If you're a creative thinker with an unconventional approach to your industry, you just might be a happy disruptor. Join your friends at the Great Outdoors Foundation for honest conversations about tackling critical issues like conservation with an uncritical disposition. If you like to smile and get things done, this is the podcast for you.
Hello, and welcome back to the Happy Disruptors podcast. I'm Katie.
And I'm Hannah.
And today we are joined by two amazing individuals working in the conservation and agriculture space, representing two phenomenal partner organizations. So Jeff and Rebecca, thanks so much for being here. Maybe just take a couple minutes and tell us about yourselves.
Yeah, so thanks for having us. First off, my name is Jeff Lucas for all the viewers and listeners. I serve as the executive director for the Iowa Ag Water Alliance and the Agriculture's Clean Water Alliance. So two kind of powerhouse organizations that work in the same stride towards water quality with the I guess, avenue of agriculture. Mm-hmm. But a lot of partnerships, collaboration is key in this space, as you guys well know, and oftentimes are the collaborator that brings everybody together. So we're honored to be here and share a little bit about what we do.
Absolutely. And I'm Rebecca Jones. So I'm the communications director for Iowa Ag Water Alliance and for Agriculture's Clean Water Alliance. I was not here when they named both of those. Similarly, we always talk about wearing two different hats. Today I wore my ACWA shirt. So Jeff, I don't know if you wore your IAWA shirt.
It was dirty from yesterday.
Okay. Getting good use out of it. But I focus on communication that is outreach to farmers, to partners, to water quality professionals, a little bit to general public, but mainly what we're talking about is the opportunities, the needs, and the successes of water quality work in Iowa.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm just going to address the elephant in the room, get it over with.
Uh-oh.
Can you talk a little bit about the differences between Agriculture Water Alliance, Iowa Agriculture Water Alliance, and Agriculture Clean Water Alliance?
Jeff, you want to start?
So I'll take the first stab at it. I guess I'm the newest one in the room to be in the role for about a year and a half. Iowa Ag Water Alliance, IAWA, is a 11-year-old organization now that was kind of founded by the three large commodity groups. So Iowa corn, Iowa pork, and Iowa soybean came together at the kind of the heels of the nutrient reduction strategy and said we need to work together for water quality, and founded the IAWA initiative. They put the money on the table and said, let's do something for this. Hired my predecessor, Mr. Sean McMahon, and had a 10-year run of great success of figuring out how to utilize direct farmer sources for conservation efforts and farmer-led conservation efforts. Agriculture's Clean Water Alliance, ACWA, has the same sort of mission, that we're still focused on conservation, water quality. It's just through the ag retailers and co-ops across the state. So kind of a middleman in between us and the farmer, but that middleman is a very trusted advisor and trusted source for all of the farmers across the state of Iowa. So it allows us a little more trusted reputation when it comes to our conservation agronomists to implement more conservation on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a great description. I always like to tell people that IAWA is kind of the behind the scenes people, and ACWA is really on the ground. They've got the co-ops, the trusted advisors, the conservation agronomists that are helping farmers, while we're behind the scenes in a lot of ways, like Great Outdoors Foundation, doing some fundraising, project development, and outreach that can help those other people on the ground. So
Yeah. So listener, there will not be a quiz later because we know there's a lot of acronyms in the world of conservation, but both organizations are doing really, really impactful work. Tell us a little bit about maybe your favorite initiative from this last year, or something that you feel like has made a significant impact in the last 18 months.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of it is kind of navigating the new era of what is conservation in the state of Iowa when it comes to funding sources and kind of the opportunities that we have to provide to our farmers and growers. Being able, a big initiative I'm really passionate about is the Cost Share Compare Guide, and what that's done to really elevate and level set with farmers and not overload them with information and jargon, but give them an apples to apples comparison for them to make a educated decision with a professional, whether that be a district conservationist or whoever locally that their local contact is, to get engaged with conservation.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to pick one thing that I have enjoyed the most over the past year, or that I think has been the most impactful. But I will say, what's really cool about working in the nonprofit space is that you don't have any competitors. You know, it's not like we're trying to sell a product better. It's not like we're trying to do a service better. Like, it benefits all of us when all of us are doing a great job toward the same goal of water quality. And so it's been really fun to think about ways that we can fill in gaps or support other people's strengths. And so, you know, we just talked about the difference between ACWA and IAWA. What are ways that the two organizations can complement each other? And since Jeff and I and many of our team are embedded in both, we have like a front row seat to how we can support each other. So I think the Cost Share Guide is a really good example of complementing work people are doing. And so for listeners who have no idea what Cost Share is,
tell us all about it.
Yeah, I knew someone was going to ask.
It's so good. It's such a great resource.
So there are millions of dollars, federal, state, private, local, that can pay farmers for conservation. And sometimes it goes above and beyond the cost of what that conservation is on the farm. And sometimes it just helps to kind of mitigate risk, or, for the example of cover crops, it will just cover the seed. So that way they don't have that extra expense, especially when we have heard from many farmers that cover crops aren't always successful within the first 5 years, that it takes time to see that progress. So millions of dollars available for this kind of stuff. But if you're a farmer and you want to try cover crops, you're like, oh my God, where do I start? Yeah. This is really overwhelming. And so we put our heads together to create costsharecompare.com. It will be having a new name soon. Can't release it just yet. Teaser.
Yes. Stay tuned.
To help farmers just navigate that environment. And we're not the final stop. So then they would go on to a conservation agronomist or to a watershed coordinator to learn more about how to activate that cost share.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you kind of hit it at a high level. What are those outcomes that you're looking for? Obviously, it starts with education, but then from there, it's hopefully a behavior change, right? Is that kind of, in summary, the hope with whether you're working directly with the farmers or landowners or working indirectly through some of the co-ops or CAs?
Yeah, and I think for us, a lot of it's a lifestyle change. It is a very big change to say we're going to put in a bioreactor here, and maybe you have to reimagine what that field looks like to have a bioreactor on the edge of that field, or a wetland or something like that. We had a training last week, one of the two, and had a farmer give his testimony about his dad worked for his entire life to keep this wet spot productive and never could get it productive. And he worked for 21 years of his life after inheriting that field, never could get it productive, and finally said, why am I wasting my time? I can put this into a wetland and see a true result from it.
Right.
And he's done so and had amazing success because of it. So it's kind of our idea and our passion is to provide the education, provide the resources. Who is the contact? Who do our farmers need to go to get signed up, to get the information, get more in depth on the practice or whatever it is to be successful in that practice, and not that we own any real part of that, but we're just the distribution source that gives them the information to set them on the right path and drive their direction forward for success.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I'm going to go off of our questions, but Rebecca, correct me if I'm wrong. You and your husband also own some farming acres, and I think you have shared that you two are kind of navigating the process of like, how do you implement conservation? So I feel like that gives you a really unique lens into all of this. And since you've started that process, what have you learned?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I empathize a lot with farmers and how difficult it can be to get started, and with landowners. So we would be what someone calls a non-operating landowner. So my husband and I, my father-in-law, and then my sister-in-law and her husband, we all have a third of about 150 acres. And I knew from the get-go, I was like, I cannot talk about conservation at work and not do it on our own farm. And also I care about it. So, I mean, I want to do it for the right reasons.
Right.
But so we decided to start with cover crops. And it was at least a year-long process to explain to all of the fellow landowners what are cover crops. And so I remember the first conversation we had, they're like, wait, back up. A watershed? What's a watershed? You know, so you really have to start somewhere different with everyone you talk to when it comes to conservation education. But also in our family, in this ownership, we have an engineer and a chemist, a scientist. And so they ask excellent questions, many of which I cannot answer. And then, so that was step one, is like getting all of the landowners to understand what this is about. And I shouldn't call it step two, because I think it happens at the same time. The farmer needs to be involved. And so we talked with our farmer, like, you know, how do you feel about this? We know that it's going to take extra time for you to plant the cover crop, to terminate the cover crop. And we know that it could impact yield. And at the end of the day, we want to plant this cover crop as landowners to protect our soil. And we know that you don't own this land. So it's a different benefit for you. And I think those conversations were really successful. I think what did push us over the edge as a collective group was the cost share. We were able to combine two different cost share sources to be able to have the entire cover crop process paid for, so it felt risk-free. It was like, well, if this doesn't work, we're not out anything. Let's give it a try. And you know, this past spring, our farmer sent a text saying, man, I wish our cover crops were a little bit, you know, taller so that we could have a little bit more coverage. And so it was like, okay, you know, we're seeing that. We're seeing the buy-in. And so I'm hoping that he can implement this on other acres as well. One other piece to this that I think is really important is that we as a family decided not to just do cash rent, which would be like our farmer just paying us a lump sum once or however many times a year to rent the land. We decided that we wanted to be in on the risk and the process with our farmer. So it's a share crop model where we are sharing the expenses of insurance, the inputs, things like that. And then at the end, we're also marketing our own grain, half and half. And he provides the equipment and the labor, and we're providing the land. So that's been a really cool experience. And when I talk to farmers, you know, I think that's something that's really respected, because we don't want to just like be hands off, you know, we want to be involved, but we also know our farmer is the expert at farming. Like, we're not. And so we really need him as a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. When you talk about the difference between being a landowner and a farmer, those decision-making processes and the levers of influence are often in contradiction with one another. So that's, I mean, that's such a cool model that you've found where everyone can be working collectively kind of in the same direction. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
So one of the things that we're really interested with our partners is the landscape of agriculture is always changing, but certainly in the last year has been changing pretty dramatically. Can you guys talk a little bit of what you're doing, your organizations are doing to provide relevant impact for your farmers and those that you serve?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it is being transparent and not selling them something that it's not. We talk a lot about adopting conservation is not easy. It's not a silver bullet. It's not easy. It's going to take management. It's going to take extra time, sometimes extra resources to manage it properly to be successful with it. And today we had a CWISH broadcast, and the guy said, well, I started cover crops in 2009, and I wasn't successful until 6 years in. And I said, well, why didn't you give up? He said, I guess I just like the challenge. And I think there's a lot of folks like that out there, but there's a lot of folks too that they can afford to keep taking on the challenge over and over again. And what motivates us is how do we make that challenge from 6 years go to 2 years?
Right.
Or how do we help alleviate some of that pain and allow the educational side of it to come into play? And whether that be through our educational resources or field days or trainings or whatever we can support from our organizational standpoint that we might not be the leader on, but we can be a partner to help promote.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would add, to the question, how are we evolving to help farmers in a different agriculture environment? I would say empathy.
Yeah.
So when I think about our harshest critics, I remind myself that they are concerned citizens, and they're coming from a place of concern. They may be coming from a place of fear, of anger. They may be coming from a place where they don't have all the knowledge that we have about how conservation and agriculture works and the barriers and the solutions that we're working through. And I think it's really important to respect those emotions and that place that they're coming from. And also, my biggest audience is farmers. I'm really working hard to reach more farmers, and empathy is critical with our farmer audiences because, like Jeff said, we don't know what risks they face, what their financial situation is, what they've tried in the past, what their management system of their farm is, how many generations have owned this piece of land. And you can't walk into a farmer's shed without that being a piece of the conversation and having empathy from where they're starting and meeting them where they're at. And that said, I don't think that empathy is ever an excuse for inaction. And so I think we have to take that to the next level, which is compassion. And the way I see that is taking that perspective and that understanding of other people's emotions and using it to deliver the most effective message of something that they need to hear.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe they don't want to hear it. And that's where I think that it can be courageous to have compassion. And it's so important for all of us to be doing that as we problem solve through this in Iowa.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have had conversation after conversation on this podcast with farmers, with landowners. And I think that sometimes for people that aren't on the farm or aren't involved, they don't understand, one, the identity that being a farmer is, but two, if you're third, fourth, fifth generation, one, you're changing the operating structure, but also it's that legacy that you're putting on the line every time you make those decisions. And so that empathy and compassion is incredibly important, especially when coupled with the identity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Ruth McCabe, who I know is a close partner of your team. I think she said, so many people expect farmers to just do the right thing because it's the right thing. And it's like, hold on a second. I call BS because they are not just saying, oh, no, I don't want to do that just because I don't want to do that. There's significant cost analysis, risk analysis that they're taking into consideration. And it's the same thing with any one of us. If someone came to you and said, now this 6-figure investment on your home is going to reduce, your overall energy costs, in theory, in 5 to 6 years, can you front load that capital investment? I mean, I'm sure some people could, but I think just looking at them as human beings is so critical because no one wants to listen if you feel like you're not being listened to.
Yeah. And I think, sometimes it's lack of money, perhaps, to get started on something. Sometimes it's lack of knowledge. I think there's a lot of farmers who don't know they can make cover crops work on their land. And if we can help them explore that and to have great partners who are doing the research and crunching the numbers to figure out how to make it work, I think that is going to be really impactful too. Knowledge is power. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but it's something that I live by. It's so important to me. And I think it can be really helpful.
And it's got to be digestible knowledge too. I think a lot of what comes in the form of research or whatever that may be, most of our farmers don't have the time to sit down and analyze all this stuff to make those decisions while they've got a phone ringing constantly. They've got a combine at the shop. They've got employees in a lot of cases. That there's a lot more that goes into running these businesses, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also having a business, there's no work-life balance for farmers that they can separate the business from their life and their families and all that. So we have to make it digestible for them to really look at something and make a decision and know I made a good decision and not have a what if tied to it.
Yeah. Sometimes we talk about like, how do you give them an easy button? Like, provide all the knowledge, the funding, the opportunity, so that, because when it comes down to it, like I would say most of the farmer sentiment, landowner sentiment is, I want to absolutely do the right thing. I want to, because it's something that they are in theory passing on to the next generation or is the source of their livelihood. So it's, I think it's just removing those barriers.
Yeah. Make it easy. I think that's something we all, as all of our partnerships, strive to do. I think that's kind of the theme of all of our meetings and conversations is how do we make it to where there's no objections?
Yeah.
And a farmer, farm family, whatever that is, when we sit across the table, we can present something and know that it's bulletproof. That we've made it so easy to say yes and acceptable to say yes.
One of my favorite things that the Great Outdoors Foundation does is you guys walk into meetings and you say, in a perfect world, if you had all the money, like what do you need? What would solve the problem? Yeah. And it always leads to such interesting discussions. And you're like, well, we think we could do that. Yeah. Like, let's figure it out. Yeah. And that's how we get to the easy button. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're so, especially like in the nonprofit NGO farmer ag conservation space, we're so used to working around obstacles that like we're not even taking the approach of, well, if we could design this in a perfect way, how would we design that? And that's why we love asking that question, because sometimes it's right in front of us.
Yeah. So speaking of partnerships, you guys kind of teed that next question up pretty nicely. Thank you. We obviously believe in the power of partnerships, and we know that's another value that you all share. Maybe tell us about what that looks like in a practical application. Like, talk to us about some of your initiatives that you're doing in partnership with other organizations.
Yeah. So one thing, just this morning, we were at a Clean Water in Iowa Starts Here broadcast. We're trying to find different ways that we can reach more people, but also build a bigger tent. How do we allow non-endemic, non-ag focused industry that relies on clean water? How do we let them into our tent to give them a behind the scenes look at what a farmer actually does to invest in their land and their soil health and see clean water be a benefit of that? And that's something that I know you guys have really mastered, is bringing a lot of attention to what we do. And I think the business and advisory council that we have for the IAWA, we're able to bring a lot of decision makers to a table and say, all right, you guys take off, and they're all competitors, which is the greatest part of it, in my opinion, is they take off their own company hat and they put on a water quality hat and say, how do we work together for something? And that's powerful when you can take two titans, say a Corteva and a Syngenta, and put them next to each other and they can work together for the same great cause. Nothing can stop us. And in my opinion, I think it's a motivational thing. And for other companies and other folks to see that is like, there is hope and there's a real result that we can get out of this.
I love that.
Yeah, I think one of our most important partnerships is our founders, Iowa Corn, Iowa Pork, and Iowa Soybean. And because they continue to stay involved, not just providing donations, but really being involved, we are able to reach a much wider audience than we would on our own. You know, IAWA is a team of what are we now? 4.5. 5. And so with those associations involved, we have access to their email listserv and their events. And so, we can reach tens of thousands of farmers across the state. And that's a really cool partnership. Also because they've spent decades building trust with farmers.
Right.
And so to have an inside, access to that is really, really incredible and really special that they offer that.
Definitely.
So we're almost to the end of the year. I'm sure you guys are knee deep in planning for 2026. What are you most excited for in 2026?
We were in the car today. Can I tell them what you said?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. We call it truck talk. Truck talk.
That could be your
time.
podcast.
Oh my
Truck
gosh, yes,
talk.
truck
Yeah,
talk. I
that
love
would be
it.
great.
I don't know if we want to bite off that. You guys have got the podcast game napped down.
We
don't
can
need
make
to
it a
do
segment.
Yeah,
Boy,
absolutely.
I don't know.
I like it.
Let's kick it to Rebecca and Jeff in the for Truck Talk.
Where are you today in the middle of nowhere?
But we were like, we were looking through some of the questions that we might have in this podcast, and we got to this one. What are you most excited about in 2026? And Jeff goes, "This was the hardest one." And Ben in the backseat is like, "What? Seriously, you're not excited about anything?" He's like, "No, there's a lot to be excited about." So that was kind of a funny moment, but yeah, a lot. One of the things that I'm excited about is we're working on a project, a campaign that I'm calling Unique Farms, Unique Solutions. And we're traveling across the state. We're getting video stories of farmers who live in different areas of the state. So there are different landform regions in Iowa, so like the Des Moines Lobe, for example, because glaciers went over it, there's all these prairie potholes that kind of fill with shallow water or like flood, and so those need wetlands. In Northeast Iowa, there is a lot of sort of limestone that the water can seep through, and so all these different landform regions of Iowa have different concerns and different solutions, and so therefore unique farms, unique solutions. So we're traveling to each of them, getting farmers firsthand stories about how they're working with that specific land resource concern to be successful, and putting that together in an interactive map that users
cool.
can scroll through and learn from their peers. And so I'm really excited about that.
That's amazing.
Also, just because selfishly, like I really like to travel and meet all of these farmers, and they always just have really incredible stories. So that's one for me.
Well, and I think that's one really beautiful component of the farming community is they are the most powerful agents for change. And I think what we have heard is when one farmer implements cover crops, then all of a sudden his neighbors are like, oh, I gotta check out, I gotta see what he's doing. Like, I'm gonna start doing that as well. And, that once you have that ball rolling can really make a huge impact on a specific geographical area. And a lot of times it just takes the sharing of one story. So that's really cool.
That's what we're hopeful for.
Yeah.
That mentor-mentee relationship is something I think is extremely powerful. We joke about peer pressure.
Yeah.
Everybody in agriculture acts like, I'm not peer pressured into making decisions. I would call bull crap.
Right.
When one combine's rolling, everybody else, by golly, I got to check. Maybe we should be out there right now. And it is real. And we just need to adopt that same peer pressure into conservation. What is that guy doing on the edge of a field? And why is there a backhoe digging a hole with wood chips in it? And open up a conversation from peer to peer where that respect is already created.
To be fair, we do it in the burbs too. Like as soon as one guy in our neighborhood starts mowing the yards, like everybody's got to be out there. You got to make sure no one's ahead of you.
That's funny.
So I obviously excited about a lot of things. Anything else that we haven't covered either from this year or looking ahead, the two of you, that we can highlight before we close today's episode?
I think a lot of, now that we've taken on ACWA as well with the Conservation Agronomist Network, is incredibly powerful. And we're now embedded in these ag retailers across the state, and with folks that don't sell anything but conservation. They are truly there to be a trusted advisor. We talk to our CAs all the time. It's like you're the servant in ag retail that is you're there to show up and just say, here's what I think would be best for your operation, and help them navigate this path so that these farmers have somebody to walk with. And because the journey is not easy, it's not short. To adopt conservation and take the next step is very scary in a lot of ways. So we have these conservation agronomists embedded all over the state. We're looking to expand that and grow that network to grow the power of that impact, and be able to see the ag retailers step up to the plate as well and say, yeah, you know what, we're investing in that. We want to be a part of the change, whether it be a decrease in fertilizer application or increase in cover crop seeds. So there's multiple ways that they can take the next step. And I'm really excited about expanding that network. We had a great training a week ago on Edge of Field and spent 8 hours with a handful of partners. There's 40 people there from, I think it was 6 different agencies. We talk about building the tent. We built a pretty big tent last week and got everybody there. The Leica Farm, Land Improvement Contractors of America, their farm up in Melbourne is amazing. It's a wonderland of conservation. And we got to have a farmer contractor walk us around and show us and to see how proud he was of that farm that they built to showcase. Being able to bring more people to the table and say, how can we use all of our strengths in the right areas to increase farmer-led conservation?
Yeah, the conservation agronomist program that you all have piloted and now perfected and are expanding, I think has been one of the most significant changes in conservation. I mean, we're building entire programs, you know, around the work that you're doing. And it's offering resources, it's offering training, but I think most importantly is it's changing the business model of conservation.
1,000%.
And when we talk about, you know, weathering the storms of what we're going through now and everything, we have to make conservation part of a business bottom line, both for the farmer and for the ag retailers. So we're so excited, thankful, but also excited for the work that you guys are doing for that and that you're continuing to expand it because it's a game changer.
And we're proud that you guys are excited about it. And Iowa Soybean is going to lead this ship. Mr. Kirk Leeds has been a conservation champion for 30 some years and kind of was out there as the weirdo that was off on an island with conservation for so long. And everybody's starting to understand it and his vision and kind of seeing where this is morphed to. Roger Wolf, our predecessor at ACWA with the Conservation Agronomist Network, and getting these ag retailers to say, I'm going to invest in that. I see that being a difference. Even in your right business mind, you would think, oh, it's going to cost me money.
Right.
It's actually making them money, and there's a value to those relationships between a conservation agronomist and a farmer that isn't tied to a transaction.
Right.
And that, I think, is a psychological perfect match of how we can expand and grow conservation because there's no dollar tied to it. There's not a sale or any expectation of anything other than just say yes, and I'm going to walk with you through this journey.
Yeah, and you have a shared vision, right? The conservation agronomist wants the same thing a farmer does. They want, net profitability with protecting the land and the inputs. So, it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that's been on my mind a lot, when we were at One Water, which is this summit that brings together water quality professionals and water quantity, also. It brings professionals from around the country in to talk about water issues. We had a panel and someone came in and talked about framing. And I have literally thought about that panel every week since One Water and how we can frame the issues that we have with water quality in Iowa in a more productive way. And, recently I've just been thinking about, I think fear-mongering is one of our greatest villains because it does two things. Well, I think fear-mongering is one of our greatest villains, and I will say that, the headlines are scary. I'm a former journalist. I do not blame any reporters or media for that. I think that's the reality of, that's what people click on, right? That's how we consume media, myself included. We click on the most crazy stuff. But I think fear-mongering does two things. I think first, it puts people in an unproductive mindset. So when you are scared or when you are angry, you are not thinking straight. And I think the perfect example of that we've all experienced at work at some point is you fire off an email when you're mad and then you walk it back later and you say, I'm so sorry, I wasn't thinking straight. That's just not productive. You're not in the right mindset. And the second thing that I think fear-mongering does is it creates this larger than life problem that feels impossible to solve. And we don't need to convince Iowans that there's a problem with water quality. We need to convince them that there's a solution and they can be part of it, that this is solvable. And so that's a really, really hard one to wrestle with because I want collective energy to be spent on solving the problem.
Yeah, definitely. That's really thoughtful, Rebecca. Thanks for sharing that. It's something we wrestle with all the time of balancing, data that is challenging and also not allowing that to become, this immovable mountain, because that just, to your point, totally squashes any sort of momentum or energy or enthusiasm around solutions that exist. So thanks for bringing that up. We're going to close today with our favorite segment, Let's Whiteboard It. So on the table next to you, you'll find a whiteboard with a marker tucked in the back. And I feel like, it would seem that Rebecca and I coordinated on this beforehand, but really I think it's just a perfect foundation for this question. You all work in water quality with partners in ag day in and day out. And, I know many of you, or I think all of you have been doing that for, many years. What is your personal sentiment or your feeling or vibe going into 2026? Is it optimistic? Is it, I forget how you worded it, Rebecca. Fearmonger, are you fearful? Are you antagonistic? Are you ready to just burn the house down and rebuild it? So you can either draw or write, and it's okay if it's multiple words, and you'll also be able to explain what your answer is. So while the group is responding to our Let's Whiteboard It segment, question for the day. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you are listening to this episode. Share it with a friend who could learn more about the work that's being done in tandem with ag in order to preserve and protect our soil and water. Follow along with what the Great Outdoors Foundation is doing on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and X. And thanks so much for continuing to listen. We are heading into the last month of the year and have had some really phenomenal guests. So thank you guys for joining. All right. Who would like to go first?
Nose goes. Is that still a thing?
I started to feel not confident about mine, and I noticed you didn't give me an eraser.
Yes.
I guess I'm going with it.
It is. You were all in.
Jeff's going to laugh at this one. Mine, it says hot takes.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah, I can't wait to know more.
I just feel like recently our team has been really open-minded and having really thoughtful challenges to each other, in a productive way.
Yeah.
And boundary pushing and where's the line? Can we get close to it to find new ways to make a difference? And so I've been using, I think when some of us go off on those tangents, I think those are hot takes, but I think they can lead to really productive conversations.
Yeah.
So is that okay, Jeff? Will I get
Yeah,
fired for that?
no.
Sounds like you got a bunch of happy disruptors on your
Yeah,
team.
we
do.
That's
We
what
do.
we love to hear. All right, who's next?
I would say mine would be solutions focused. I hope that's spelled right. I hope.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Spell check's been my friend for 20 years. Solutions focus, I think, going into 2026, having solutions in every conversation. We focus on the result of a conversation gets us closer to a solution, no matter who we're talking to. If we're talking to ag industry folks, if we're talking to utility folks, whether it be at the city level or the rural water level, how are we looking forward to a solution instead of feels like talking circles or
Right.
beating the idea down that, that's probably not possible.
Right.
Well, we know that all things are possible. So how are we able to walk into a room and focus on what role can I play for a solution? How can you play into that?
Yeah.
And then who can we bring to the table to see that solution come to fruition?
Yeah, don't take no for an answer.
Yeah. Well, mine kind of plays on what you said before about fear mongering and then what both of you say and what you both talked about. I think that one thing that 2025 brought us is that like the current system and the current way that we find solutions is kind of broken. It's not really working. There's parts of it that aren't working for everyone. And I think that's why you see some of this fear mongering, is because the old way isn't working, but we don't have a solution necessarily moving forward, because we have been talking in circles. We've been Iowa nice, or, trying to do that thing. So I didn't say burn it down. I didn't say that.
We only say that in private. It's not on the record.
But mine is, and Katie won't be surprised because I've been saying this to our staff the last month, it's level up. It's like what has not served us, it's time to get rid of that. And let's work on what will serve all of us moving forward. And that's where the magic happens, right?
Yeah.
It's with the conservation agronomy, the costshare.com.
TBD.
Those are the things that, like, we've had that void. That's what wasn't working, and these are the solutions. So let's stop making the broken, try to make the broken work, and let's build for the future. Let's level up our solutions. So that's mine. Yeah, level up.
I feel a new sticker coming on.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
When we're off camera, I can tell you guys my song that I did. Have I told you this?
I don't think so.
So you're
I
not
can't
going to
wait.
sing it into the
Yeah,
mic?
we'll
I won't.
stop the camera rolling and we can
I didn't know there
absolutely
was a
hear your
karaoke
song.
session as part of
I
this.
am tone deaf, so I won't be singing it.
Well, that's a
why,
great.
I was going to say, that's why Smash Mouth All-Star is my karaoke song, because you don't really have to sing.
Yeah.
You can
That's
kind of
right.
like speak it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
So,
we'll
chant it.
maybe we can work together and we can turn it into a
We've got a
song.
new
Do you
theme
think that
song for
sounds
the
good?
podcast. Aki can mix it for us.
Mix it.
Oh, I love
The
it.
GOF
already.
remix.
I even
Yeah.
have like a music video in mind. You guys will laugh when I tell you.
Well, if you want to see that, you're just going to have to tune in for the Happy Disruptors in
January
2026.
2026.
Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.